Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for our academic engagement and support webinar, specially designed for our September 2025 cohort. I'm Kat and I'll just take you on a bit of a tour of the buttons that you can use on screen to interact with us before we start the session. So you have got the chat button. Please feel free to use that to chat to each other. Do be mindful if you are putting any personal details in the chat, or if other people are putting links to group chats in there, because they're not monitored by the university. So just be mindful of that. If you do have any questions throughout the session, please pop them in the Q&A box. Me and Jess will be typing as many answers as we can before we go to live Q&A at the end as well. So do check out those typed answered questions. It is an interactive session today, so please do engage, join in. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just a really fun way for you to start learning some of the tools that you'll have access to once you're a student as well. And we are recording the session, so if your internet does drop out halfway through, don't worry, because you will be able to watch any sections back that you miss as well. But thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I'm going to pass to my colleague Mark now, who's going to lead you through the main section.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Well, good morning from where I am on College Lane in Hatfield at the University of Hertfordshire. Hopefully my slides are visible.
Yes, you're all
Yeah,
good. Thanks,
lovely.
Mark.
Okay, so very quickly, so my name's Mark. Absolute pleasure to be with you this morning. I've been working at the University of Hertfordshire for just almost 5 years now. So if you see me in October around campus, please do come and say hello and wish me a happy anniversary. My role at the university is I am Associate Director for Academic Skills. So I work across the whole university with some brilliant teams of people around making sure that every student at the university has opportunities to develop the skills that they need for success in their degree programs. More aspects of my work today, and we're using something called Mentimeter. So some of you, I'm sure, will have used this before. You can access the Menti, which is a kind of interactive slide deck, via the URL that you see on the screen, which is menti.com with the code 64402459. But my colleagues, Kat and Jess, will make sure that there's a link in the chat that you can just follow and interact with. I'm going to talk to you about kind of four different areas of work, as I said. I'm going to talk about what academic skills means at the University of Hertfordshire. That will probably take up about half of our time. I'm going to talk to you about assessment here and what we call academic integrity. We'll talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and your learning and assessment. And finally, you get through personal tutoring. I can see that some people have already started connecting to the Menti. Thank you very much for those of you putting thumbs up. I'm going to test the system now with a question. Now, it's a beautiful sunny day here today in Hertfordshire, and outside my window, I know that students are arriving on campus dressed up really nicely for their graduation. It's a fantastic time of year, and we're all excited as staff to welcome you all to the university and to start the academic year properly. But what are you most looking forward to from studying at Hertfordshire? So please use the Menti you can enter anything you like. What are you looking forward to from your studies and your time at Hertfordshire? I'm glad that someone is already looking forward to good grades. Great. As you can see, we've got answers coming in. And we also get a sense of how many people are answering. So wonderful. We do a webinar like this fairly regularly, actually, but congratulations to the person who has entered bird watching in the area, because I don't think anyone has told us before that they're looking forward to bird watching in the area. That's great. I do think there's a lot to learn from just exploring the area and the countryside around us. And again, if you see me on campus, do stop me, and we'll talk about which birds I've seen in my garden recently, and what you might see around the area. Lovely. Okay, so there are some themes here. New experiences, work experiences. It looks like kind of experiencing the area, experiencing people and meeting people, learning opportunities, professional opportunities. There's references being made to like the resources that will be available to you. Wonderful. And I guess there are some computer scientists in the webinar looking forward to doing coding. Brilliant. Lovely. I can see that some people are putting their answers to the questions in the chat. That's absolutely fine. If you do it via the Menti, then your answers will become part of the bigger moving picture that's happening here. Lovely. So I can see we've got almost 200 participants in the chat. Please do follow the link into the Menti and join in. I think you'll enjoy the session more if you're able to participate, and we will also learn some things from you and about you from doing that. Lovely. Okay. Second question for you. Thanks very much. I think you'll all have different experiences of studying prior to your degrees at Hertfordshire. And I'd like you to think specifically about your experience of studying in your home country or any country other than the UK that you've spent time in. And I'd just like you to tell us, how do you think studying at Hertfordshire will be different to your previous experience? UK people mind their own business, not nosy. I'm always happy to share like personal information about myself. Now, my wife is originally from Brazil, and people might think that Brazil is like a very kind of friendly and open and warm culture and society, and I'm not saying it isn't, but I think I'm very interested in other people. My wife thinks no. Think UK people mind their own business and not nosy. Some of us are a little bit nosy. Some of us like gossip, but that's a really interesting expectation. So let's look through what other people have said. There's a few people referring to practicality, and I think that's something that we are really proud of and excited about at Hertfordshire. We believe a lot in kind of learning by doing and kind of using your university experience as an opportunity to develop professionally, but also to bring professional skills and experience into your university experience too. So it's great to see like there's a lot in here around like practicality. It's an English speaking environment, of course. British people are polite and friendly. We'll try our best not to disappoint. There's some points being made about like the way that you're assessed and taught, and we'll monitor that a little bit more and explore in more detail later. Like digital is at the forefront of how, as a university, we try to give you a rich and enjoyable and stimulating learning experience. Okay, that's a I like the way that a few people are referring to kind of the difference between like theory and practice and theory and practicality. And yes, I do. We do aim to give you kind of practical learning experiences and also practical assessments. Okay. Thank you very much for your responses to those questions. I'm going to keep asking you more and more questions now, and we'll probably work through them a little bit more rapidly. We're going to talk about what we mean by academic skills, and we'll start by exploring your own understandings of academic skills, and I'll tell you more about my team and Herts academic skills across the university. I have to give credit because like an important element of being a good member of a university community is to give credit to the people who've done the work for you. I'm about to ask you 10 questions, and the 10 questions paired colleague and Deputy Head of Academic Skills, Mary Martala Lockett, who sadly can't be with us today because she's on holiday. So I hope she's having a wonderful holiday, which she really deserves. But while she's away, I'm stealing her questions. So I have a question for you. Number one, what does academic skills mean to you? You can choose, we've got 6 options on the screen. You can choose all 6 of them if you like. But what do academic skills mean to you? Knowing how to effectively study and retain information, being able to write clear and concise assignments, mastering the art of citing sources in APA format. If anyone wants to put in the chat what they think APA stands for, that would be brilliant. Effective oral and written communication, mastering time management and organizational skills, answering tricky questions in class presentations. There you go. I think I'm just going to give you a few more seconds, see if we can get up to 40 responses. I think I've got 94 people logged into the Menti. It'd be great if more of you can join. Oh, wow, I had more than 50 responses. Fantastic. Okay, so, well, this is what we think the answers are. Interesting that 25 of you gave this very specific point about mastering the art of citing sources in a particular format. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Like referencing in writing and presentations and showing audiences where your information comes from is a really important element of studying and being part of an academic community. But you don't have to know everything about every small detail of academia. You have to know what's done in your subject area, and you have to follow instructions from the people teaching you. But we will kind of take care of you and support you through that. I think your answers, the answers that have got the most hits are really about like developing study skills and time management. And I think that's part of the kind of foundation of being successful at university. We talk about academic skills in terms of thinking, organizing, writing, interacting, and numeracy. So like using your math skills. So communication is a really important part of that. But actually organizing yourself, organizing your time, that's key. And we're here to help with that, as I'll explain more. Okay, second question for you. What's in the last question, one of the answers was that managing your time and organizing yourself was important. So what's an example of good time management? I've got 4 options on the screen provided by my colleague Mary. And I think it's not surprising to see how many of you are choosing the option of creating a study schedule and sticking to it. If this isn't something you've done before, then actually you'll meet members of Herts academic skills teams in your induction. And one of the things that we can do with you is work on building study schedules and understanding how to make better use of your time if that becomes an issue. Okay, fantastic. I 3 options that Mary has suggested there as incorrect answers. Thank you for the individuals who chose them anyway. Right, there you go. Right. Lovely. Next question. I am sitting here with like a notebook and a pen. I'm quite a technophile, which means I do love technology, but I also like to write things down. And around my desk at the moment, I've got 3 or 4 notebooks, and I write different things in each of them. But what's the purpose of taking notes like during class? And brilliant, we already have 70 responses to this question. Yeah, it's really important to take notes during classes, whether that's a lecture or a seminar, which is like a smaller group discussion or class. What we want to do is to be able to capture information that we'll be able to use later, and we'll be able to learn from the process of capturing it. I know when I was an undergraduate, so when I was 18 or 19, I used to sit in lectures and just draw pictures. I used to draw doodles in the margins, and maybe that was good for my mental health. Maybe that was good for my social skills, because it meant I started to talk to other people around me sometimes, but it wasn't really good note taking. I think there's also been times in my life when I thought I needed to write as much as possible. I need to write as quickly as possible and write what the lecturer is telling me. And there's been some research that suggests that students who take like a laptop into a lecture possibly reliable notes or learn less effectively from taking notes on a laptop compared to those who write by hand. I'm not 100% sure that's always going to be true, because I think you can take digital notes really well too. However, one of there have been findings from research that suggest that because we can, a lot of us can type very quickly, or you might even use it like an AI tool to help you transcribe what you're hearing. By typing, we get a record of notes that are a little bit like a transcript. So we try to capture everything that's being said, and that's actually not a great way to process and think about what we're hearing. And actually turning it into kind of handwritten notes and not trying to write down everything we hear is a really good way to develop our own thinking and learning. Okay. Great. Over 100 people on the Menti, and we just had 90 answers to that question, the majority of which were, of course, correct. Time for another question. What's a key reason to read academic texts when writing for an assignment? Is it in order to find interesting titles, to understand the context, support your arguments, to get ideas for random trivia, or to gather as many quotes as possible to fill up the pages? I do have some sympathy with any student who starts an assignment by wanting to fill up the pages, because it can be quite scary to think, oh, I need to write 1,000 words, or I need to write 2,000 words, and where do we begin and how do we do that? And there's always a temptation just to try to get as much information as possible and just put it into a document, put it on a page, and then think, okay, I've met the word limit. But actually, as you develop as a student at the University of Hertfordshire, I think you'll find that when you have to write assignments, the real challenge is meeting the like reducing the number of words you write down to meet the limit, because you've got so much to say and you'll know your subject so well that when someone asks you to write an assignment that's 2,000 or 5,000 words long, it won't feel like enough words. But yeah, it's all about getting an understanding and being able to answer questions for yourself, not to do the other things. Lovely. Hopefully you're starting to see a pattern here that my colleague Mary has done a great job of at where one of the answers seems a little bit more appropriate than the others. So my own personal area of research, like something I'm really interested in, is the idea of academic writing and how we write about our learning generally. So this question here is really important to me. What does academic writing usually require? And almost everyone is giving the same answer. One person has chipped in with including difficult words to sound smarter. And I think once upon a time I would have agreed with this as well, that I needed to use long words that I didn't completely understand to make myself look clever. In the UK, we have a great tradition of politicians, and particularly prime ministers, who like to use words that they don't always understand, but which make them sound smarter. But actually, when people are when colleagues, when university staff are marking your assignments, they really want to see evidence of your learning and your understanding and evidence of your thinking. And the best way to communicate that will be in language that is clear to you and that you feel confident with. So actually, your choice of language is all about like what best represents you and your thinking. And I think we've all probably had experiences of trying to use a word we didn't fully understand and probably not sounding great as a result. Okay, but yeah, academic writing is usually about clarity. I always tell people that it's about trying to be as precise as possible, trying to be as concise as possible, and generally being respectful in the way that we write. There's we talk about using an appropriate structure. Now, when you're set an assignment as a University of Hertfordshire student that requires you to write, you'll usually be given an indication of what kind of structure is required. But most of the time we structure our writing around what we want to say. So our answer to a question will determine the structure that our writing takes. Okay. Correct answer, as you can see, is the most popular here. Research skills. Which of the following is a critical research skill? I am a little bit worried that in 2020, like when I started working in universities about 20 or something years ago, a lot of university staff were a bit worried about Wikipedia and used to tell students, don't use Wikipedia. Don't use Wikipedia for your assignments. You can't trust Wikipedia because anyone can go to Wikipedia and edit it. And I think times have changed, and I think a lot of young people in actually. So I have a 12-year-old daughter, and if I go home tonight and ask her what's Wikipedia, I'm not sure she'll know what it is. Wikipedia does at least have some kind of reference to the sources that have been used in order to write the entries, and we now have generative AI tools that don't do that and also give us incorrect information without us being able to check easily. So I'm not sure that Wikipedia is the bad guy anymore, but some good answers here. I agree with you. Not believing everything you read on social media is a critical skill, and it's really important. Perhaps it's not specifically a research skill, but it's something for the whole of our life. There you go. Okay, a couple more of these questions. What's the purpose of an oral presentation? I think in one of the earlier questions, when I asked you about your expectations of the difference between studying in the UK and your educational experience, people did reference the type of assessment. We'll speak in a moment. But yeah, you can expect to be asked to give presentations and to speak in class and for assessment in your time at Hertfordshire. And it really is about communicating your ideas clearly to an audience with a specific purpose. Wonderful. I think we all get that point, but I really like this graphic that Mary has produced. So lovely. Two more questions from us on academic skills. We did mention referencing earlier. So I'm not going to assume that you all know what referencing is, actually, because depending on what you've studied before and where you've studied, you may not have needed to reference. But typically, when you give a presentation or when you write an assignment in a British university, the reader wants to see where your information has come from. And yeah, we see it as part of being a member of a good member of an academic community, as someone who like respects knowledge and respects other people within our community. So if other authors have, if we've taken information from a book or a, a documentary or an article, we want to show where we got that information, and we want to give credit to those authors. It is fun to format citations in different styles. I'm sure it is fun for some people, but it's not the most important thing here. Lovely. Okay. And finally, I think there are times in all of our kind of study lives and experiences when we feel stressed. And actually, stress isn't always a bad thing. You know, sometimes like you do a degree, people have already told me that they want to get good grades while they're at Hertfordshire. They want to manage their time. Sometimes that involves a little bit of worry around deadlines or how well we're doing our work and the quality. And it's not unusual to feel stressed sometimes. I often tell students and anyone who's listening really that actually some of the most interesting things that we do in life do involve an element of stress. Like being a parent, for me, being a dad is just the most brilliant thing. It's like my favorite thing in life is being a dad, but it's also the most stressful because, you know, when anything that my child is worried about, I'm worried about too. So we do need to think about that, but also think about ways that we can handle our stress. As Mary is suggesting, yes, developing effective study habits and taking breaks is a good way of handling stress. All the coffee in the world might be delicious. It might help you to stay awake, but it probably won't improve your stress levels. And another way to handle academic stress, and I'll come to this in a moment, is actually just to seek help and get the support that's available at university. And there's lots of that. So before we move on, I'd just like to ask you how confident you feel about your academic skills right now. I do want to emphasize that like nobody is expecting you to have like perfect academic skills at any point in your degree. And everyone is expecting that when you first start your degree, there will be things that you need to improve and things that you need to learn. But I'm really interested to know how confident you currently feel. Because actually, depending on what you tell us here, we can provide more information or more guidance, more support for the things that you tell us that you're worried about. So any information you give here is useful to us, but I think it's also like hopefully useful to you. You're going to hear probably quite a lot over the next year. People at the university talking about reflecting and the importance of reflecting on what you've done, what you've learned, how well you've done something, what you could do differently in the future. Any professional development you do, any kind of work placement that you do, there will be elements of reflecting on experiences at work and learning from reflections. Yeah, we really believe quite strongly in the importance of reflection. So please do consider this an opportunity to reflect on how you currently feel about academic skills, and think about what you'd like to develop further, and where you hope you can build your confidence in areas. Interesting to see that confidence in giving oral presentations has got the lowest score of the 70 responses that we've got so far. I'm not at all surprised about that. I wouldn't, I'm sure many of you have not given oral presentations as part of your study previously. I know many of you will have English as a second, third, or fourth language. Yeah, I once upon a time I was an English language teacher, and I've lived and worked in other countries, and I know that I feel far less confident speaking in a second or third language than in English. My wife will confirm that I would not be able to give this webinar in Portuguese. I wouldn't even be able to begin. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for your answers. And I would just like to say, in response to everything you've told us about your confidence and your thoughts about academic skills, that actually we've got a really passionate and dedicated group of a community of people at the University of Hertfordshire who are here to help you to develop your academic skills, either by they will appear at induction, you will meet them. Every school has an academic skills team. And they'll be introduced to you. You'll learn the ways that you can communicate with that specific team. You can find us in the libraries between 10 and 5 every day during term time, and you can speak to someone, or you can get help. You can get help about academic skills, but also about language and kind of developing communication skills. There's a URL here, go.herts.ac.uk/academic-skills. It won't work for you until you are registered. This is a Canvas site, so Canvas is the VLE, the virtual learning environment that we use at the University of Hertfordshire, and that's kind of the home of all things academic skills. At the end of my slides, I've also got an invitation to you if you want to join our mailing list, so that we can send you a reminder of these kind of links and resources. But what we do during term time, we work with academic staff to academic skills development is just part of what you do through your studies. So you'll receive support for your academic skills development within your school and within your program, but you'll also be able to attend academic writing workshops. We have classes in English language and intercultural communication if you've got any concerns about your language skills, but also if you just want more opportunities to meet people from other countries. I think, you've already told us that you want to network, you want to meet people from around the world. And so, yeah, we need particular skills in order to do that well and to make the most of this opportunity ahead of you. We have things like conversation clubs and consultations on a one-to-one basis. Okay. Okay. That's academic skills more broadly. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of AIs in a moment now. The first of which is what we call academic integrity. But I don't think I can talk about academic integrity without first talking about assessment. And to be fair, when I asked you about what you're looking forward to at the University of Hertfordshire, about the third response I got was getting good grades. So some of you are already thinking about assessment. It's not just me telling you to think about assessment. I'm curious to know what types of assessment you've completed in your education previously. And while you're answering, I'll just explain a couple of differences between these, because you might wonder, well, exam and a class test might be quite similar things. So actually at the University of Hertfordshire, exams are, some of you might never need to do an exam. So some degree programs do not have exams. Exams are sometimes the minority assessment on a degree program. Lots of people putting thumbs up to that. Exams are what happen in very formal conditions during an exam period outside of teaching time. Whereas a class test is something that happens like during the regular teaching term, and a class test at Hertfordshire could involve lots of different types of activities. It could be something that's done online, for example, or it could be done on paper. It could be a kind of short quiz. It could be something you're asked to do even like as part of a group. There's a difference, I think, between oral presentations and vivas. Oral presentations here are things, yeah, you're assessed on your the way that you talk about a topic, or the way that you answer a question through a presentation, which you might be asked to do individually or as a group. Whereas a viva is used to kind of check your understanding and your knowledge, and to encourage you to kind of maybe talk about your thinking about a subject by a kind of form of interview. So usually a viva is linked to, you might have done a written project, and then afterwards you have an appointment in which one person or a panel of people ask you questions about your work. Okay. I can see that's the least common type of assessment you've done. Yeah, so we have all of these different types of assessment at Hertfordshire, but actually you might expect to do more written work as coursework for the majority of the kind of grades available to you. You can expect maybe to have class tests, but I would be surprised if you have as many exams on your course at UH as you did in your previous studies. Now, when we talk about academic integrity, I'm just going to flip between these slides again. When we talk about academic integrity might mean something slightly different within these different types of assessment. Okay, I'm sure that there is no one in this webinar who has ever cheated in an exam, right? But there are ways that you might cheat in an exam which might not be possible in any other type of assessment. For example, sometimes a class test might be an open book test where you're encouraged to bring in your own books and notes, and answer test questions with sight of anything that you bring in. It's unlikely that that would be the case in an exam. So bringing in your notes to an exam might mean that you get into serious trouble, whereas doing that in a test, it might be a requirement of the test. Okay, so academic integrity might mean different things in different contexts, but at the University of Hertfordshire, forgive me if I'm reading from the slides a little bit here, but I just want to be clear about what we mean by academic integrity. It always means producing work that is your own and being able to demonstrate that it is your own work. Okay. Obviously, we live in a world now where you can ask ChatGPT to generate some text that might look like your own work, but it won't be your own work. And so therefore, you wouldn't be able to demonstrate that it was your own work. So you have to be able to produce work that's your own. You have to be able to demonstrate that it's your own. Academic integrity means being honest about what you've done. And if you're working in a group, being honest about the contribution you have made compared to other people in the group. But actually, I think in quite a nice way, academic integrity simply means following instructions. Every assessment that you do, you'll be given very clear instructions. And if you follow those instructions, you'll be fine. Most of the problems that I see students experiencing are ultimately relate to not following instructions. And that includes issues of integrity, but it also relates to like not getting the grades that you are hoping to get. Academic integrity also means avoiding actions that would give you an unfair advantage over others. That's kind of cheating, right? And never obtaining unauthorized external assistance in the creation of academic work. You put all of these things together, I think a really nice way of thinking about academic integrity is having integrity in your studies is about earning your degree. And I've deliberately used a picture here from actually right now, today, we've got graduations at St Albans Cathedral. St Albans Cathedral, you're going to visit it one day, and it's an amazing place. It's where you'll have your graduation ceremony. you can feel so happy and proud at your graduation in this beautiful place, knowing that you earned your degree and you did the work for it. And that's what we mean by academic integrity. And you want all of your friends to have done the same, right? In the future, you're going to have University of Hertfordshire on your CV. You want to be proud to say, I got my degree from the University of Hertfordshire. And it's a place where students really earn their degree, and we do it through producing our own work and being honest about it. Okay. I hope I've convinced you of that. If I haven't, well, no, even if I have, I just want to give you a couple of scenarios to think about. So I've got 2 case studies. Hopefully we've got time for both. Apologies if anyone in this webinar has the same name as the characters in my case study. I've just used the names of kind of friends of mine. So this is our first case study. We have a student called Maria. Maria has an essay assignment due on Friday. So it's currently, what day is it today? It's Tuesday. She's got an assignment due on Friday. She's had some personal problems. Okay. We get up to Wednesday and it's 48 hours before the deadline. She hasn't even started writing her essay. In fact, she hasn't done any of the reading that her lecturer recommended in preparation for that essay. However, Maria has a friend called James. James tells her just to Google the assignment question, copy and paste paragraphs from some research articles that she finds about the subject. And if the articles are written by academics, then the essay she produces with that approach will be good quality. It will be academic. It will be the right kind of style. They'll be using the right kind of language. There's no problem. Meanwhile, Maria has a friend called Anna who says that she's seen an Instagram post by a man offering to write high quality essays, but for a fee. It's not expensive. And the man says that he has a PhD, he's Doctor Essay Writing Service. And I know, because I work at a university and I have an Instagram account, every day I get offers, I get people trying to follow me or asking me to follow them, and they are doing exactly this. They're offering to write university assignments for a small fee at good quality. So my question for you is, what should Maria do? And I just like that. Remember, there's James and there's Anna. And now on this page, yeah, maybe keep it simple if you can. Via the Menti, can you write some Maria? What should she do? She's got 48 hours before the deadline. She hasn't done any work at all. She's been having a hard time, right? But she hasn't even started. She's got one friend telling her, Google it, copy and paste everything, and you'll be fine. She's got another friend telling her that Dr. Instagram can write the assignment for her. Now, of course, someone was going to suggest ChatGPT. I'd like to know how ChatGPT is different to the guy on Instagram. And you might say, well, ChatGPT is free. Well, it's free for now, but you're feeding it all of your data. So you are paying something for this. It will be the same outcome, I'm sure. And I would expect that the guy on Instagram is using ChatGPT or similar to write the assignments anyway. There you go. James is okay. Pay the Instagram due to write for and copy and paste. I think the best answer so far was maybe, okay, we had meditate. That's right. Yeah, we've got some sensible suggestions here. Stop listening to both. Do as much work as possible. Okay, but actually, look, university is a kind and reasonable place. If you've got circumstances that have made it difficult for you to do a piece of work on time, we would rather you tell us about the issue and try to find a way to support you than to encourage you to do anything that might be dishonest. So yeah, you don't even, in most cases, you don't even need to email the person who set the task, because we have a process where you can ask for a deadline extension. So the first thing that this student could do is ask for a deadline extension for up to 7 days. If her personal problems are more serious than that and she needs a lot more time, she needs to provide evidence of the problem that she's having, but she could be given more time. But she also wants to think about her own like time management and organization, and you don't want to put everything off to the future. But she can at least get herself an extra week when she's got into this situation. And it would be great if someone suggested that once she's got through this assignment, then for the next assignment, she kind of like can apply better time management and organization skills. Okay. I think you can work through this Menti yourself if you want to later. I've got a second academic integrity case, but I think we've kind of seen enough. But there's a really important message here. Like, if you're struggling with something, come to university staff. Don't go externally. Don't listen to friends who suggest shortcuts to you. Look to be honest and have academic integrity where you can. And I would say be wary also of ChatGPT. But we want to talk a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence, and generative AI, artificial intelligence. And before I talk about AI in your studies, I just want to ask you about your day-to-day lives, right? Because I think generative AI is, on my phone, I've got a number of AI tools that are there whether I want them or not. And there are things that generative AI can do for me if I want it to, sometimes if I don't want it to do. So which of these things do you trust AI to do for you in your daily life? So I'm sure there are already ways in which AI has been part of your life actually for a long time, and you're fine with it. So we've got, I'm just going to see, I'll give this a few seconds for more advice to come in, more responses to come in. Okay. Now I find this like very interesting because I've been asking groups of students this question quite regularly for the last 2 years. And actually the types of answers I'm seeing are changing. I'm not surprised that enhancing photographs is the top answer here, because I think that's something that's been a fairly normal thing to do on your phone for several years now. So it's been quite a normal part of life for a long time. If you use a streaming service like Spotify, then you're probably used, or Apple Music, you're probably used to algorithms suggesting what you might like and what you might want to listen to next. And often we might have personal experience of, oh, I discovered some good things like that. I'm about a year ago, I think I was one of the few people who was happy to, you can see I don't really care about my beauty regime. I do let Amazon tell me when like I need like to buy some moisturizer or something, and if it doesn't have the thing that I want, I'll let it suggest something else. So I'm happy to let an algorithm make beauty product choices for me, and my wife thinks this is shocking. Recently, I've seen an advert in which 2 women are shopping for beauty products in Korea, and they use AI. They ask an AI tool on their phone to choose the best product for them according to their skin type. I don't know. Personally, I feel a bit sad that you wouldn't ask the person in the shop for advice on the beauty products, but there you go. 11 people would get medical advice from AI, which is just generating text. But the thing that breaks my heart a little bit is that 19 of you would use AI to write a message to someone that you love. I think I'd also ask you, how would you feel if you were in love with someone who loved you too, and you got romantic messages from them every day, and then you realized that all of those romantic messages had been written by AI, and maybe they'd sent them to other people as well. Okay. Anyway, there's another message here, which is, look, we all have our own kind of personal boundaries. We all feel in different ways about, well, I feel comfortable doing that, but not that. And I think that's absolutely fine. We just have to be aware of what our boundaries are. What's our own relationship with generative AI? What do we want the machines to do for us? And what do we want to keep for ourselves? So do think about that. Please, you know, if you're saying goodbye to people that you love in order to come to the University of Hertfordshire, and you're saying goodbye for a year, do have a conversation with them to see if they're happy to receive messages from AI instead of from you. But there you go. All right. So similar question, but now in relation to your studies, which of these things do you trust AI to do for you in your studies? Trust is an important word here, right? So previously, 11 of you said you trust AI with medical advice. And I'm really curious about why, why you would, and maybe you would trust AI, but you'd also trust a doctor. But generative AI hasn't been to medical school and can't see you and can't look at any of your symptoms and doesn't have experience of interacting with humans. Okay. Okay. I'm quite happy with the answers that you're giving here. There are AI tools that will do reading for you and summarize text for you. That can save you a lot of time, especially if you have a lot of things to read and you want to get an overview of them. I'm not completely against that, but I would warn you that using AI tools to give you summaries of texts doesn't seem to be great for learning, right? Because actually, one of the benefits of reading is that you're spending a long time with the topic and you've got time to think about the things that you're reading. Translation can help you in the short term, but just remember, we've been speaking about assessment through your writing and through your speaking. We want your communication skills to develop while you're here, and we want your, if you don't feel great about your English now and you'd like to use a translation tool to support you, I understand that, but you also have to realize that interaction with humans and the use of English to communicate that's going to improve your communication skills and your English in long term. Checking speller and grammar is absolutely fine. However, I don't necessarily trust AI to do that for me. I've asked AI tools to proofread work that I've done, and it's missed lots of things. It also has a different idea about good academic style to me. So it will make suggestions, but I think you've got to be the author. So one way of thinking about the use of generative AI is, I think, if you're the driver, if you're in control of the tool and you're making choices, then that's probably a good thing. If you're the passenger and AI is making decisions for you, then you're probably not learning and you're probably not showing academic integrity. So just to say that, although it's a part of our daily lives, we can't trust generative AI with everything, and we probably don't want to either. And the same is true for your study. So you can't trust, you definitely can't trust it to write an essay for you. You can't trust it to do referencing correctly because it's not reading, it's not writing, and it's not actually thinking. It's just generating text. So whatever ways you find for AI to help with your studies, please remember that it cannot learn for you. If you can't be sure that you trust what it generates, then just don't trust it, like the man on Instagram. You know, if someone is offering you an illegal service, that's already a reason not to trust them. I like to think that there's no substitute for genuine human experiences, and I think you've told me already that you're coming here to have human experiences, practical experiences, to meet more people, to enjoy yourself, and that's what we want. Every assessment you complete at UH, you'll be given guidance on what use of AI tools is authorized and what's not authorized. So we may say to you, you can use AI tools for doing a spelling and grammar check on your writing here, but you cannot use it to generate the content of the work, but you'll receive guidance on specific assignments. Very quickly, one last section of my talk about actually also relating to guidance and support is just to tell you a little bit about personal tutoring at the University of Hertfordshire. So when you come to the University of Hertfordshire, you will have a personal tutor. So every student has a personal tutor, which is a nominated member of staff within your school, and you'll be able to reach out to them for guidance and information. You can speak to the people who are teaching you, your module leaders and your program leaders, but you have this named person who is who may be part of your program, might be separate to your program, depends on your school. So please do look out for information about your personal tutor or from your personal tutor, which you should receive in your first week here in your induction. Try to make sure you know the name of your personal tutor and how to contact them by the end of your first week on campus. And you will have a meeting with your personal tutor of some kind within the first 4 weeks of your course. It might be in person, it might be online, it might be as a group, or it might be as in one-to-one setting. So depending on your degree program, you may have a one-to-one personal tutor and you only meet them alone. But there are also some programs here where what we do is we have one tutor with a group, and they meet as a group to give information and have discussions and talk a little bit, and then you can go back to them with questions. Okay, apologies if I've spoken too quickly. You can always watch the video of this again and increase our YouTube hits. Between now and arriving in the UK, I think the two most important things, and I'm quoting our Pro Vice Chancellor Education and Student Success here, Charmaine Barnes. I remember her saying last year, there's two things that you need to do. Read your emails and be excited. And I think that's about it. Do be excited, but do read your emails, look for information and follow instructions, not just before you arrive, but after you arrive too, please. If you'd like to stay in touch with me and my team, and if you're keen to get ahead, or, if you're thinking now about anything I've said around academic skills and you think, okay, I don't want to forget that, I don't want to miss that when I arrive. I know that you won't have your University of Hertfordshire logins yet. So if you use this QR code, it will take you to a simple form that allows you to tell me your name and the email address you'd like to be contacted on, and we can put you on a mailing list and give you reminders about what's available to you once you're here. Okay, and with that, I'll just leave that there for a moment, and I'll hand back to Kat. And I know we don't have much time, but I'm really happy to stay around and take questions if there are any.
Well, thanks so much, Mark. That was a lovely session. I always enjoy seeing people interacting and what your ideas are as well, everybody. So thank you so much for joining. It is one of my favorite sessions that we do. I know there's been lots of questions as well. Me and Jess have been typing as many answers as we could during the presentation, but I think we might have time for maybe one or two questions if you're happy to stick around for a minute or two to answer some, Mark. Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, it was a great session. A student has said, can you give us some top tips for taking notes? Which I think is a great question. What's your top tips, Mark?
Okay. Well, I have appalling handwriting. I think that doesn't matter. For me personally, it'd be like find something that you take a little bit of pride with. So like I'm actually doing some research at the moment, and I have like this particular book that I use for that particular research. So I just found a nice notebook. I put a cover on it. I personalized it. And I I use a kind of bullet journaling method. It's like, if you go to YouTube and search for bullet journaling is great because you're kind of limiting yourself to like just one dot and one statement about each bit of information you find, and that then also becomes a way of recording your own thoughts and things you need to do next. And I would say when I look at students taking notes, often an issue will be writing too much so that afterwards it just seems overwhelming. So like just trying to do bullet points for like the most important things, but don't forget to add your own thoughts, right? Don't make it passive. Like if you're reading something or you're listening to a lecture, and you make a connection, that's exactly what you should be doing as a student. And that's where your ideas and your learning and your thinking will really grow. So if you listen to something and it makes you think of a question or a connection, write that down. And what I do in my notes, I just write my initial so I can remember which bit was my idea and and I might do a circle which shows like I'm going to have a follow-up on this, and then I can tick that off. So things like that. But also once you're here, we've got some stuff on note-taking and organising your studies on the Herts Academic Skills Canvas sites. And some of my colleagues are much better at taking notes and talking about taking notes than me. So you can look out for help from them too.
Well, that's brilliant, Mark. Really, really good advice there. I've learned a few top tips as well, so thank you for that. A student has asked, Mark, what type of support would they get from their personal tutor, and would they need to book appointments to see their personal tutor? How does that kind of academic relationship work?
Yeah, because like this is a really big university and we've got a really large student population. So it really does depend on your course. There are some courses where it's a professional requirement that you have a one-to-one personal tutor, and it will be kind of like very structured in terms of when you see them and what you'll talk about in each meeting. But there'll be other programs where that's not a requirement, and so it will be very much about almost like using the personal tutor as like the hub of a small community, right? So you can go to your personal tutor with anything. It might be something academic, or it might be something like personal to you. If you're kind of like struggling with anything in your personal life, you can go to a personal tutor. The personal tutor is not going to fix everything and can't help you with everything, but we've got so much expertise across the university. We've got brilliant teams on kind of like student finance and well-being, and our colleagues in the international office. So it may be you've got a concern about your visa, for example. Your personal tutor is not going to help, but they're going to be able to help you to find the help that you need if you don't know how. So there are no, just remember there are no stupid questions. You haven't done this before, and when any of us do something for the first time, we face some challenges, and we're always as a university, I think, we really pride ourselves on being friendly, and if someone asks a question, then they're asking because they need an answer. So you can go to pretty much anything for a personal tutor. The personal tutor themselves will have some training in personal tutoring, and they'll have a kind of like schedule of a sense of like what you might need at different stages of your degree. So that's all kind of like mapped out for staff, and so they can reach out to you. But in your first introductions to them, you'll get their email address. So as I started giving top tips, I don't like the word tips, right? Because I think I work for the university. I should be giving you guidance. I'm not, there are no secrets here. You ask us, and we'll tell you as much as we can. A way in which university can be a bit different to what you've done before or elsewhere is that email is our primary form of communication. I don't know, I've got friends who are in workplaces where they use things like Slack, or they might use WhatsApp, but we use email. And if you email a member of staff at university, you can be sure, you'll get a response. However, if possible, send your emails from a University of Hertfordshire email address, or at the very least, make sure that your personal email address is something at least kind of professional looking. I sometimes sometimes I find emails in our spam folder, and they've come from like email addresses that don't look very serious or don't have a very clear name on them. So yeah, when you need to speak to someone, or when you need to communicate with someone, you can request to see them in person. You can request to see them like via Teams, so they're an online meeting, or they will invite you to something. But if you want to get their attention and you want to make sure you get a response, use your University of Hertfordshire email when you have it, because it can't get lost.
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Mark. I think it's been an incredible session. Thank you so much, Mark. And as I said earlier, I've learned loads from the session. I know I always do from your sessions as well. But everybody, very sorry, we don't have enough time to ask any more questions. But I'll pass back to Kat now to end the session.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And yeah, I'm so sorry if we didn't get a chance to ask your question live, but thank you for joining us. I know there's been a lot of registration questions in the chat as well. We are actually doing a registration Q&A FAQ session later this afternoon on our Instagram channel. So if you do want to join that, if you're still unsure, we've got special guests, Gabe and Helen, who'll be answering questions live as well and giving out top tips. And for those of you who had accommodation questions in the chat and in the Q&A as well, we did do an accommodation Q&A with Prue from accommodation last week. That's still available on our reels to watch that as well if you do want to go back and watch that. She answers some great questions on there that people usually have as well. And we are here to help. So if you're still unsure, you need assistance, reach out to your in-country reps first. But we do have our UK team available for you. So we've got our most of the resources that we advise about pre-arrival are available on our website. We've got our email address, and for any urgent cases, you can call our UK team as well. And we'll be putting tips on the run up to start a term, just things to remind you of things like the tap water's safe to drink, how to get registered with a medical centre, how to check bus timetables, apps that might help you. So follow along and we'll give you as much bite-sized information as we can to make your journey as smooth as possible. But thank you so much, everyone. I'll play one last video now just while we close the session. Mark and Jess, thank you so much for your time. If you need to leave for other meetings, please feel free now. And everybody who's been watching today, thank you for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you on campus over the next few weeks.